My name is Sophia Reyes, and I'm 29 years old. New York. City is my battlefield, a glittering maze of skyscrapers and shattered illusions, where ambition devours the weak and spits out the survivors. I used to be a rising star in the fashion world, a designer with sketches that turned heads at fashion, weak in a spirit that refused to dim. But now, I'm piecing together the fragments of a life I barely recognize. This is the story of a love that promised forever but delivered devastation, a betrayal that left me penniless and purposeless, and the 5 brutal lessons I clawed from the ruins of my breakup. It's a tale of how my millionaire husband, Alexander Hale, tossed me aside like yesterday's trend to teach me a lesson in humility. Little did he know, his own driver, the quiet man who'd seen it all, would unleash a reckoning that stunned the world. If you're here, hold on tight. And if this resonates, drop a comment. Where are you reading from? Your stories remind me I'm not alone. It started 3 years ago, in the relentless pulse of Manhattan's garment district. I was 26, fresh out of Parsons School of Design, hustling as an assistant to a tyrannical couturier named Vivian Locke. Days blurred into nights of pinning hems, sourcing silks from Chinatown markets, and dreaming of my own label, Reyes Threads. Clothes for women who wore their scars like couture. New York was my canvas, graffiti bright and unforgiving, and I painted with every ounce of fire I had. That's when I met Alexander Hale. He was 32, heir to Hale Enterprises, a real estate empire that owned half the skyline from Tribeca, lofts to Wall Street towers. I bumped into him, literally, at a rooftop launch party for Vivian's fall collection, champagne flute in hand. He steadied me with a touch that was electric, his gray eyes locking onto mine like he owned the view. "Careful, firecracker," he said, his voice a low rumble over the jazz quartet. "This city's rough enough without you tumbling off edges." I laughed, brushing off the silk from my thrifted dress. Says the man who probably built the ledge. We talked until the skyline swallowed the sun, about my sketches, hidden in my portfolio, his latest acquisition of a Soho hotel. He wasn't the arrogant type you expect from old money. There was a hunger in him, a drive to expand the empire his father had left in tatters after the "Wait, crash. I build things that last," he said, clinking his glass to mine. "What's your legacy, Sophia?" That question hooked me. We started dating in secret, stolen lunches at hidden bistros in the village, late-night walks along the High Line where he'd whisper blueprints of his next deal like love letters. Alexander was generous, showering me with vintage fabrics from Milan and a studio space in his Chelsea building. "You're my secret weapon," he'd say, pulling me into his lap during board meetings via video call. 6 months in, he proposed under the Brooklyn Bridge at midnight, fireworks exploding over the East River, as he slid a flawless emerald cut diamond onto my finger. "Marry me, Soph. Let's build an empire together, yours in fabric, mine in stone." The wedding was a whirlwind affair in the Hamptons, June of that year. White tents on the dunes, my gown a custom lace number I'd designed myself, flowing like ocean waves. 300 guests, from Vogue editors to hedge fund titans, toasted our future. I was 27, blissfully naive, vowing to weave our worlds into something unbreakable. Alexander promised the same, his kiss sealing it under a canopy of stars. "You're the heart of this, baby. Everything I touch turns to gold because of you." The first year was a fairy tale stitched with gold thread. We honeymooned in Tuscany, where I sketched collections inspired by olive groves, and he closed a deal on a vineyard that funded my first runway show. Back in the city, life was a rhythm of galas and growth. I'd drape models in my designs at Milk Studios, while Alexander dominated headlines with Hale Tower, a 70-story behemoth rising in Midtown. Our penthouse overlooking Central Park was a sanctuary, floor to ceiling, windows framing the chaos below, my sewing machine humming beside his mahogany desk. But cracks appeared like runs in fine silk. Alexander's days stretched longer, mergers bleeding into midnight calls with lawyers in Dubai. He'd snap at small things, my frivolous fabric splurges, the way I'd prioritize a fitting over his investor dinners. "This isn't a hobby, Soph," he'd say, his jaw tight. "It's our future. Act like it." I chalked it up to stress, the empire weighing heavy. After all, he'd surprise me with weekends in Aspen, whispering apologies over roaring fires. Then came the whispers. At a Met Gala after-party, a tipsy publicist pulled me aside. "Watch your back, darling. Alexander's playing the field. Some intern named Lila Voss, Daddy's little secret." I laughed it off, champagne buzzing in my veins, but doubt seated like a snag. I started noticing the late nights, the cologne that wasn't his, the way his phone stayed face down like a guilty verdict. 2 days before our first anniversary, I found the evidence. Rifling through his briefcase for a charger, innocent enough, I uncovered a velvet box, not jewelry. Inside, a key fob for a West Village pied-à-terre, receipts for dinners at Le Cuckoo with LV, and a love letter scrawled on Hale Enterprises letterhead. My darling Lila, Sophia's blind to the game. Once I filed, the prenup leaves her with nothing. You're my real future. Join me at the Cape next week. My knees buckled, the city spinning outside our window like a cruel carousel. Confrontation came that night in our kitchen. Skyline mocking me through the glass. Alexander strolled in, loosening his tie, oblivious. Soph. Reservations at 11 Madison. Anniversary surprise. I slapped the letter down, voice steady despite the quake inside. Who's Lila, Alex? Your real future? His face cycled through shock, denial, fury. You invaded my privacy? This is business, Sophia. Alliances, not affairs. Lies crumbled under my push. Texts synced to his iPad. Photos of them tangled in silk sheets at that very pied-à-terre. Lila, 24. A Columbia MBA interning at his firm, blonde ambition personified. It meant nothing, he snarled finally. You're too focused on your little dresses to see the big picture. I need someone who understands power. The betrayal sliced deeper than scissors through chiffon. He'd funneled my startup funds, $200,000 I'd poured into Reyes Threads, into his slush accounts, masking it as joint investments. The prenup he'd insisted on, ironclad, leaving me with a pittance if I left first. I'm doing this for us, he claimed. To toughen you up. You'll thank me when you learn the world's not kind to dreamers. He threw me out that week, bags packed by his assistant while I sobbed in the foyer. Go find your humility, Sophia, he sneered, handing me a check for $10,000, pocket change for him. Come crawling back when you're ready to play by my rules. The elevator doors closed on my marriage, depositing me into the humid July night, alone with a suitcase and a shattered heart. No calls, no pleas, just silence, thick as fog off the Hudson. Lesson 1. Love isn't blind. It's willfully ignorant. I'd ignored the red flags, mistaking control for care, because admitting the truth meant unraveling the dream. That breakup taught me to trust my gut over his gaze. Intuition is the thread that holds us together when the fabric frays. Homeless in my own city, I crashed on a friend's futon in Bushwick, the L train rattling like accusations through the night. Reyes Threads? Frozen. Fabric seized by creditors. My website dark. Job offers dried up. Whispers of Hale's cast-off poisoned the industry. I waitressed at a dive in the East Village, dodging Alexander's spies, my hands raw from trays, my spirit chipping like old paint. Depression hit like a blackout. Nights blurred into days of staring at my engagement ring. Pawned for rent but haunting my palm. I stopped sketching, stopped eating, lost 20 pounds in a haze of tears and takeout. Therapy? A luxury I couldn't afford. So I journaled instead, raw pages of rage and regret, scribbling the 5 lessons as they clawed their way out. One rainy Tuesday, scrolling Instagram in the dim bar light, I saw it. Alexander and Lila. Power couple goals at the Emmys after party. Her in my rejected gown design, him beaming like he'd won the lottery. The caption, building empires one deal at a time. Hail hearts. Rage boiled over. I hurled my phone, shattering the screen. Fitting since he'd shattered me. That's when Marcus entered the frame. Marcus Hale, no relation, just cruel coincidence, a 45-year-old driver who'd ferried Alexander for 5 years. I'd tipped him generously on rides home from galas, shared laughs over traffic jams. He found me that night outside the bar, huddled under an awning. Mrs. Hale, Sophia, he said, his voice gravelly from years of city exhaust. Saw the post. You deserve better. We talked in his idling Lincoln, rain sheeting the windows. Marcus spilled it all, not out of malice, but loyalty misplaced. Alexander had confided in him during drives. The affairs predating Lila. The embezzlement from my funds to bail out a failing subsidiary. The prenup drafted by his shark lawyers. To test her mettle. He said it was to teach you. Marcus muttered, eyes on the dash. Make you stronger, but it's poison, ma'am. He's poison. Lesson 2. Betrayal's echoes linger in the unlikeliest places. The people we overlook, the drivers, the doormen, hold the maps to our truths. Marcus became my quiet ally, feeding me intel, Alexander's offshore accounts, Lila's jealous rages, the board's growing unease. Emboldened, I lawyered up pro bono through a women's advocacy group in Harlem. Evidence mounted, bank trails, witness statements from Marcus, even voicemails where Alexander mocked my naive artistry. The divorce filing hit like a thunderclap. Not just dissolution, but fraud charges, seeking restitution for my stolen dreams. Alexander retaliated viciously. Paparazzi hounded me at shifts, headlines screamed. Gold digger designer dumps. Tycoon, Lila, leaked my sketches to knockoffs. In Fast Fashion Weekly, I hit rock bottom again, contemplating the Brooklyn Bridge's edge one fog-shrouded dawn. But Marcus pulled up unbidden. Can't let you do that, Sophia. Here's something. Insurance. He handed me a USB drive, years of dashcam footage from Alexander's car. Clips of drunken confessions. Sophia's money saved my ass. Told her it was love. Brags about affairs. Lila's fun. But Sophia's the meal. Ticket. And the kicker, a heated call with his father's ghostwriter, admitting to doctoring financials. If she sues, bury her. Use the driver. He's loyal. Marcus's face hardened. Not anymore. Saw too much. Him berating you after parties, you smiling through tears. And Lila, she's next. He cycles them like deals. He quit that day, anonymously tipping TMZ with select clips. The internet exploded. And Hail Hypocrite trended. Stocks dipped 15%. Board members jumped ship. Alexander's lesson backfired spectacularly. Lila bolted when the checks bounced, fleeing to her daddy's Hamptons estate. The courts ruled in my favor. $1.2 million restitution, plus rights to my designs. But the real shock? Marcus's full testimony in a civil suit, revealing Alexander's web of lies. He threw her out to teach humility, Marcus said on the stand, voice steady. But it taught me integrity's worth more than any paycheck. The jury gasped. Reporters swarmed. Alexander, once untouchable, slunk into seclusion, empire crumbling like cheap pleather. Lesson 3. Revenge isn't sweet. It's justice reclaimed. I could have stooped to his level, leaked nudes or scandals. Instead, truth was my blade, sharp and clean. It didn't erase the pain, but it severed the chains. With the settlement, I relaunched Reyes Threads, not in Manhattan's gloss, but a gritty loft in Bed-Stuy. My collections evolved. Scarlet survival, gowns from upcycled fabrics, each stitch a testament to mending. Fashion Week buzzed again. Buyers from Bergdorf's placed orders, praising the raw authenticity. Therapy unlocked the rest. In a sunlit office overlooking Prospect Park, I unpacked the 5 lessons fully. Lesson 4. Self-worth isn't measured in millions. Alexander valued me by my utility, funds, arm candy. The breakup stripped that illusion, forcing me to rebuild from empathy, not excess. I volunteered at a shelter, teaching sewing to survivors, their stories mirroring mine. Loves that used and discarded. Lesson 5. Vulnerability is the ultimate power move. I'd hidden my fears behind perfect seams. Now I bared them in interviews. TEDx talks on breakups as blueprints. Crowds in Chicago, LA, even London shared their scars. You gave me words for my silence, one wrote. Connection healed what isolation broke. Marcus? He started a ride service for women, safe. Vetted drivers, proceeds to domestic abuse funds. We grabbed coffee monthly, his laugh a balm. You shocked the world, kid, he'd say. But you saved mine. Romance crept back subtly. At a pop-up show in Williamsburg, I met Javier Ruiz, a 30-year-old photographer capturing street art's soul. No empires, just a canon and a kindness that felt like home. Our first date, falafel on St. Mark's, debating Basquiat over hummus. He saw my stumbles, the way I'd flinch at power suits, and stayed. You're the design, Soph, he said. Not the price tag. 18 months post-breakup, I walked my own runway, not as victim, but visionary. Hale Tower loomed in the distance, a ghost I'd exorcised. Alexander, reduced to tabloid fodder, dating models half his age, empire halved by scandals. Lila sued him for palimony. Marcus's footage sealed her win. On stage at NYFW, lights blazing, I addressed the crowd. This collection is for the women thrown out, told to learn lessons in the gutter. We rise not despite the fall, but because of it. Models strode in crimson silks, embroidered with the 5 lessons in Morse code, dots and dashes of defiance. Applause thundered. Anna Wintour nodded from the front row. Javier captured it all, his lens finding the fire I'd lost. Backstage, he pulled me close. "Proud of you, firecracker." I smiled whole. The city hummed below, no longer a battlefield but a bridge. Today, Reyes threads Grace's shelves from Brooklyn to Tokyo. Javier and I share a brownstone in Crown Heights, walls alive with his prints and my swatches. Marcus drives for us sometimes, his Lincoln a chariot of second chances. Alexander, a footnote. His lesson, a laugh line at brunches. Breakups break us open, but that's where the real design begins. The 5 things I learned? They're tattooed on my soul. Trust your gut. Seek truth in shadows. Reclaim with justice. Value beyond value, and bear it all. If this moved you, comment your city, your lesson. Like if you've risen from rejection, subscribe for more threads of triumph. Thank you for listening, for seeing me.